Welcome to another Dare to Say, remember brown sugar? I'm so excited to introduce you to my guest, who is a humble, unsung hero, talented to the hilt. And if you ever wanted to know who wrote the song I'm in Love with the Dreadlocks and Black Pride, those two iconic reggae songs of the late 70s,
Yeah.
then here we have John Kypiaye.
Hi.
Welcome, John. Welcome. I'm so excited to be doing this with you. So, who is John?
Black is the color of my skin. Black is the light.
I am a musician, sometimes producer and writer.
Okay. And tell us a bit about your background and growing up in the UK.
My background, I was born in 1948. My father was a Nigerian seaman.
Wow.
My mother was English, white English. I grew up in East London. You can probably hear a slight Cockney accent. I've still never got rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's basically who I am.
Yeah.
My parents, had it tough, because it was kind of, the mixed race families then,
Mm-hmm.
was tough, and they split up after 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so me and my sister Anna, who's younger than me, spent 8 years in care in children's homes.
Wow.
In Suffolk, up in the country, out in Essex.
Wow.
And the strange thing about those homes, right, that they were, I would say, 15-20% of mixed race kids.
Wow.
They was all the product of this early interracial marriages, right, that couldn't take the pressure. My mother used to tell me that she would walk down Poplar High Street. It was living in Poplar then, East London, and people would curse her, tell her she was a race traitor, spit on her.
Wow.
And one time this guy spat on me in my pram, and she took off her high heel shoes and did some damage to him.
Rightly so.
And the police came along, and luckily the guy said he didn't want to press charges, right? Probably realised what he did. But so it was tough in them days.
What was it like growing up in the home?
Children's homes. It's funny, I don't have many bad memories, apart from wanting to be home,
Yeah.
My father would visit regularly, my mother now and then. Yeah, I mean, my sister, who, when we went in, she was very young. She missed that early mother thing, And so she grew up with kind of behavioral problems and that kind of thing. She still suffers a bit from that, But I'm lucky I didn't really, it didn't really do me any damage, And as I say, in the homes, it was so many mixed race kids there anyway, right, And so I didn't feel kind of out of place. I wasn't the odd one out,
You said your father was Nigerian.
He was a Nigerian seaman.
Seaman, that's right.
And he was docked in Liverpool in 1948 at the end of the war. Well, while he was there, the war ended. He was, a lot of people don't realize this, right? He was working, bringing food and raw goods, oil, cocoa, coffee, rubber into Britain as part of the war effort.
Wow.
They used to come in convoys, 30 ships at a time. They'd start off in Nigeria and then go round Ghana, Gold Coast, Sierra Leone, picking up stuff.
Wow.
And keeping Britain going in the war effort, And he was docked in Liverpool in 1945, and the war ended. He was waiting for a ship back. So he and his countrymen said, we're going to stay a bit, because there was all these signs up, workers needed, workers needed, because, half the men in Britain were out fighting in, Germany or somewhere. Right? So they come down to London, and he stayed for 25 years and then went back.
Wow.
I don't think he meant to stay, but he met my mother in a club. I only found this out recently. That he met my mother in a club in Tottenham Court Road.
Wow.
It was a black club owned by a Jamaican, right?
Yeah.
Called the Paramount Ballroom.
Wow. Well before my time.
Yeah, Paramount. This is in, well, late 40s, right?
Yeah.
And they met there, and I was born and so forth. You know?
So you spent some time in the home. After that, what happened?
I came out when I was 12. Wow. My father felt that at that age I could come out and look after myself. But unfortunately, my sister was left in a bit because she couldn't look after herself. And it was just, he had to work. My mother had kind of disappeared. But as I say, I lived with my father for since the age of 12. And he would go to work in the morning, early in the morning, and I would get up, make breakfast, head to school, come home, you know. I can remember doing this, was really football. I was a football fanatic, right? I'd go down the, first game, Arsenal game I saw was 1961.
Arsenal.
Arsenal 2, Burnley 1.
Wow.
And for the next 4 years or so, I never missed an Arsenal home game, you know.
Wow.
And people always say to me, well, wasn't it racist down there? Wasn't it racist? Right? And no, I said no, because there were no black players then. There were no black players.
That's interesting.
And that was the you know, around about 1970, so around about 66, I started to play gigs as a musician. Right? And so Saturdays I was always gigging. Yeah. In the 70s, I started going to Arsenal again, and I started noticing that the National Front would come and set up a stall through where you're going through the turnstiles to see the game, right? And I would be handing out papers and so forth, right? Yeah. And this is when the young black players were just coming through. You know, Clyde Best at West Ham. Arsenal had some young players coming through, you know, David Wildcastle. And then they would go in and orchestrate the monkey chants and the booing, right? Because there was a target there to aim at, you know? And the crowd would join in. And it's not a very nice feeling, being in the crowd, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
But people were throwing bananas, you know, and so I stopped going, you know?
So beyond the football ground, what was it like growing up as a mixed race child in the UK?
I wasn't really aware of mixed race until I knew my father and mother were different colours, right? But it didn't register me. It's only really because if I come across any racism, it was always F off back to your own country, black bastard. Nobody ever called me a brown bastard. You know what I mean? So, so I was just part of the whole African diaspora. You know, my father was African. I went through a phase where I wanted to look like him. I was really angry that I didn't look like him, you know? And I went through a phase of holding my nose down so I could have a more of an African nose.
Wow.
You know? Just silly things like that, you know?
Yeah, the mind of a child.
Yeah. But then when I got a bit older, I would see Brazil play football, see them on telly, you know? And Brazil were like black, very light skinned, you know, like a rainbow kind of team, right? And so when I was playing football at the park, I would be Pele or Eusebio, who was an African player who played in Portugal. The whole mixed race thing never, you know, I was just another light skinned black guy, you know? I never really had any conflict about what I was. You know, I knew what I was. Okay. And when I got into music, that kind of, you know.
Well, that was where I was going to go.
That confirmed it more.
Because I know that you love football.
Yeah.
You love football, but how did you get involved in music? Why music?
You just hear stuff and it hits you, you know. You hear music and it hits you. My father used to have, he only ever had 3 records, the old 78s, right? He had three Nigerian records in his dialect, because he's Ijaw, right? Okay. Which is Ijaw, which is Ijaw people kind of next to Igbo and Yoruba, you know? And so the Decca record company, they made these records for Africans, for Nigerians in their own languages. And he only had these, I think they only made 3 in Ijaw. And you play these all the time. And it, you know, I'd tap my foot, but it never, because it was kind of African folk music.
Yeah.
Later on, when, Fela Kuti started to come along and so forth, I really got into African music. But just hearing things and it touching you, And I never thought I was going to become a musician. When I left school, I got a job as a welder, as a welding apprentice, right? I did that for 2 years. I went to night school to learn to get my degrees in that. But I've always had that problem with my chest, And the weld, arc welding, you have the shield and
yeah. I remember you being severely asthmatic when we were in the studio.
Well, during the
so nobody could
recordings,
burn a spliff around you during the recordings because it was just too much, smoking or anything like that.
I still have my inhaler there. So the dream of becoming a welder kind of disappeared because I was taking so much time off work. Eventually, the boss said, "Look, I'm sorry, but it's not for you. This is not for you, right?" And at that time, I was playing, just a little band and just
What
fun.
instrument were you playing?
Guitar.
Guitar.
Yeah. And the doctor said, "Look, there's this place you can go. It's called an industrial rehabilitation place, right? Go there. They can see what skills you've got and work out something else." And it was while I was there, I met a mute guy who was a musician, a keyboard player, and talked to him. And, he said, you can actually play, right? So why not be a musician, right?
Oh.
And I thought about it and I thought, you know what? I could do that, right? That would be beautiful, it's something I love. And that's how it kind of come about, really, Maybe I would have ended up a welder, if I hadn't been for my chest, but I would have still played,
Why did you get into reggae music as a genre, though? Why?
As I said, my father was African. I never heard, when ska came about, right?
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard it is I went to visit my mother, and one of her friends was there. And he said, "Here, you heard that new music called Blue Beat, right? That new Jamaican music called Blue Beat. It's great for dancing to."
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I haven't heard it." And she put I can't remember which one it was. And it was this kind of funny music because I'd never heard it before, right? Because, normally it's, and this was the drop was different. It was off the beat,
Yeah.
And I said, wow, that's strange. But then gradually, when I started clubbing, I began to hear it more. And making friends who were Caribbean friends, because within my circle, with my dad and that, and this is early, we're talking about early, say mid-60s here, right? And there still wasn't really a black community in Britain, right? There was little patches of Brixton, Hackney and so forth. And I was living in East London, right? Bethnal Green wasn't an area for black people at that time, But, but gradually I started going up west. On a Friday, Saturday, you go up west and to the clubs and began to hear ska, right? And so when I, got my first guitar, that was one of the first things I did was,
So
because it was easy to play that.
To, though? Do you remember the artist you were listening to, this girl?
Oh no, I can't.
Okay.
So the first band I joined, we used to play primarily soul music, and we play some rock steady. This is slightly before reggae, right?
Yeah.
And we do pubs, we do anything we could do, youth clubs, that kind of thing, And I began to love rock steady and that, And what fascinated me about it, I was a big jazz fan at the time, right? And what fascinated me about reggae and ska was the way ska could interpret jazz records, jazz tunes, like Scatterlights. A lot of the stuff they did was like jazz records, or they did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, jazz riffs.
Mongo Santamaria, he's a Brazilian percussion player, and made several albums, and a lot of the artists in Jamaica were copying that, not the music, but the melodies, right? And adapting the melody, right? And I found that fascinating, Tunes like, Phoenix City, Phoenix City.
Yeah.
That's a Latin American tune that's been kind of adapted, you know. And I found that very interesting. And I just lived the music, lived it day and night, you know. I also had a piano at home, so you know I would play piano, and then we put together a band, and we had a kind of, so what you call it, a semi-hit record. It went to number 45 in the national charts, right?
What was the song?
It was a reggae, well, rock steady version of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake.
Oh yes.
You know, we was called the Cats.
Yes, I remember it.
And,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And with no radio there, no radio play, just through clubs and DJs and sound systems playing it, right? And that time you had a lot of the white kids, the early skinheads, not that lot who come later, the early skinheads, right?
Yeah.
Who were into
ska, steady,
like crazy, right?
Yeah,
And they would do the dancing. They began to cut their hair. You know, the original skinheads wasn't bald. It was very short, and they were copying the black kids in the clubs. Who used to have a really short hair called a skiffle haircut, right? And the white kids began to copy that, and that's where skinhead comes from. And then you know the racists start to pick that up, not realizing that actually skinhead is coming from, you know, it's a black thing, right? You know?
Yeah.
So anyway, and from there I started to get into session music.
Yes.
So in 1970 I got a job to go to Germany and play in a band, back in a couple of American soul singers.
That must have been a huge opportunity for you.
Yeah. I was out there almost 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And but they were ex-American soldiers who'd been to Vietnam to fight and come back. And because in Germany, after the war, Germany was split up into the British section, American section, the Russian section, right? And in the American section, they had about 80 different bases. And these bases were like villages, towns, right?
Yes.
And each of these bases had clubs. And they would have 2 clubs. One was for soul music, and one was like pop and country.
Okay.
So it was basically segregated, 2 segregated clubs.
Yeah.
They didn't say that, but that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
And I spent, as I say, almost 6 months out there playing soul music. And that was like a serious apprenticeship, because we would play 4 sets a night, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off, 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off, right? At the weekends, you'd play probably 6 hours, right? And the band, we was all from London, and from time to time, you know, we try and put in, you know, you do an instrumental, then the stars would come on, right? And we try and do a reggae track, you know.
Was it black musicians or a mixture of musicians in your band?
There's a couple of bass players, white bass players, you know. And one was a Swiss guy and one was an English guy. And we try and do in the instrumental section, that's the Liquidator or Ram Jam, you know. And American Soldiers. And the singer, he came to us and said, look, so you guys, you can't play that island music. You can't play island music.
Wow.
Got to make it funky. So that's what the Americans called reggae at that time.
Island music.
Island music. They didn't know nothing about it, you know. But that was a big apprenticeship for me.
Yeah.
I come back and I started doing sessions.
Yes.
Full time then.
Yeah. And that's where we ended up, I guess, meeting up at Dip or Eve Records
Eve
in
Records,
Broccoli Rise, which was Dennis Harris's
Dennis Harris, he was one of the producers who were around then, record company owners who were making reggae in Britain. Because you know, the majority of reggae was still coming. You had some companies who just leased music from Jamaica, but some were beginning to make music in England, you know. And Dennis Harris, he had as you said, he had the Lucky Label, Lucky Label, and he had a lot of success from Jamaica. He'd had Hurt So Good,
Still Good Dog,
yeah. And can't remember that. But he did quite a lot of tunes. And he built his own little studio.
Yeah.
And on a session one day, he said, look, I've just built this studio, John. Do you want to come down and just, you know, and maybe be a house musician or produce somebody?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll come down and have a look.
Yeah. Yeah.
And well, not just me, Dennis Bovell.
Dennis Bovell.
He asked, who I didn't know at that time, right?
Yeah, right.
And a few other people. And I came down, and it was a nice little studio, you know. And
Basement, yeah.
Basement studio, but all studios are basement. Right? Never windows.
That's a particular basement, yeah.
And he said to me, he said, look, I've got 3 girls. Do you have any tunes? You know, do you got any tune for them, or you know, would you like to produce them? And I said, yeah, I've got tunes. I didn't have at that time, but you always say, yeah. So the next time I went down there, you girls were there. And I thought, wow, these girls look young, man. You know, I don't know they're going to be that young, you know?
Yeah.
And we chatted a bit, and you sang a few things for us. And I thought, right, I'm going to go and write something, okay? And at this time, I'm still very busy with sessions, right? So I'm thinking, what can I do? And then I realized there was this big tune that Dennis Harris had on his label called Dreadlocks.
Dreadlocks, yeah.
You know, and the premises of that song was a young guy saying, no, I'm Dreadlocks. You don't want to know me, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Right? So I thought, you know, I'm going to write a reverse of that. And that's what I did. I'm in love with the Dreadlocks.
I'm in love with the Dreadlocks.
And I brought it down to you guys, right? And I kind of had a guitar and I sung it. The impression I got when I first met you girls, right, was that Karen was the lead singer. I thought she was the lead singer, right? And she said, I don't want to sing that, right? And I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, well, try it. And I'll try it with Pauline and I'll try it with Carol. Yeah. And you both tried it. And you sounded really, really good in it. It wasn't really Carol's thing, right? Yeah. And that's how that come about. And that was a big tune, you know?
Big tune.
And Dennis Harris, who owned the studio and the label, said, when we was listening to the mix, he said, you know, this has got a different sound. It's a different sound. I want to make a new label. See if you can think up a name. And I thought up a couple of names, but that wasn't really good. And the next time I saw him, he said, but it's going to be called Lovers Rock, right? Lovers Rock label. First tune out is I'm in Love with Dreadlocks. And it came out, it was big. It went to #1 in the Black Echoes charts. And that was the kickstart for you know, and the Lovers Rock label.
Yeah, I remember hearing it on what's his name? Radio station and...
Reggae Time.
Reggae Time. And then that was followed by Hello Stranger.
Hello Stranger,
which I sang again.
Yeah.
And then Black Pride, which I think is the most iconic of all of Brown Sugar's songs. Yeah, Tell us about Black Pride and why you wrote Black Pride.
Well, the impression I got from you girls kind of surprised me because you was...
Rootsy.
I'm not saying you was all kind of radical, but you was very... socially aware and quite politically aware. You know, for young girls, I was kind of surprised, you know. And I thought, I don't really want to go down the road of pretty love songs, you know. And I think it was something that I went through probably in the earlier 60s, that whole awareness, seeing, as I say, Muhammad Ali on television, that kind of thing, right? And the 1968, I don't know if you ever saw it, the 1968 200-meter final, Olympic final.
I've seen it.
Where Tommy Smith and John Carlos stood on the balcony like that with their black. You've probably seen the picture.
Yes.
Anybody else seen that picture?
Yes.
Yeah. It's standing like that on the rostrum, right?
Yes.
And it was like, wow, you know, this is give me a feeling of pride.
Yes.
And I'd kind of been, I wouldn't say radicalized, but I'd become kind of anti-English because of all the aggravation at school and that, you know. When England won the World Cup in 1966, right, I desperately wanted them to lose, you know. I didn't want England to win at all. I wanted them to lose. And it was that atmosphere in England that made you think like that if you wasn't white, if you understand what I'm saying. So I was very aware of, you know, being part of that whole black situation, right? And seeing things that made me feel proud about it. And anyway, that's how the tune really come about. For you girls, I thought it'd be really good for you girls because you was kind of exuding that.
Yeah,
you was very proud to be expected.
Yes, yeah.
And that's how that come about.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me, you know, I know that beyond Brown Sugar, you've had quite an extensive career. Who are some of the artists that you've worked with, and what are the biggest highlights to date of your career, would you say, apart from Brown Sugar?
I would say the main person I've worked with would be, because I worked in such a long period, would be Linton Kwesi Johnson, right? Who is a poet, a dub poet. You know what dub poetry is, right?
Yes.
And I played on all these albums. I don't think that people realize how big he is worldwide. You know, he's a real cult figure. And much bigger than he is in England, right? And we played, over 30 years, we played in all over the world, you know. From Iceland to Brazil to Japan, some really strange places that you wouldn't think reggae, you know. Got to, you know, played in the Caribbean, Africa, played in Uganda, South Africa, Senegal, Tunisia, lots of different, you know.
So what's your biggest highlight in your career then?
Highlight?
Yeah, do you think?
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Outside of the touring?
Yeah. I think I made an album in 1994. It's called Red, Gold and Blues. And it's an instrumental album. And I think I'm very proud of that album. Very proud of that album.
Beautiful.
I need to get it out there again because I don't think you can actually get it at the moment. I'm just plugging it now, right? So I'm see about getting it out there.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the.
And if you had a special memory of Brown Sugar, of us three young girls, what would that be?
It was it would be the harmonies you had. You know, I didn't really have to work you hard or anything. You know, it was like, this is the harmony, you sing this, you sing that. And most of the time you worked out the harmonies yourself, right? That and going down the studio when the tune was #1 in the charts, and he was all like really celebrating and that, you know, the #1, you know. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you dare to say for the future of the music industry?
The reggae industry in Britain, I don't really see much of a reggae. It's a shame because, you know, as I said, a lot of the young kids now, they've veered off into different musics, you know, and they've made their own way now. You know, a lot of these musics that they're making, I don't even know the name of some of them now, you know, but they're doing their own thing, you know, trying to make something for themselves as Black British, you know, instead of, you know, we was trying to, you know, make music for Black British in our days, but we never really got away from the African influences or the Caribbean influences, you know. We was always an English version of that, an English version of this, you know. A lot of people say, I don't like English reggae, you know. Even though we had really good bands, you know, Aspen and Stumps and Tommy, and a lot of really good singers, Sugar and so forth. So I don't know what the future of reggae is in Britain because it seems to be, it's become a retro thing now. A lot of the artists are living on their old stuff they did, right? I think we need a really big young singer to come along and lift the whole situation, you know, and liven it up again.
Fantastic. Well, John, I have waited how many years for this to happen? 50 years, 49 years, 48 years. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for asking me. You know, you took long enough.